You're listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.
This episode.
It's a day of disaster in FAB Facts.
The only doctor in town has gone missing in the randomizer.
And we get to know model builder extraordinaire David Tremont.
That's all coming up in Pod 103
of the Gerry Anderson Podcast.
Let's get started. Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
The Gerry Anderson Podcast with Jamie Anderson and Richard James.
It's the Gerry Anderson Podcast, Pod 103.
It's the Gerry Anderson Podcast, Pod 1100111.
Are you all right there? What's happened to you?
That's right, isn't it?
For what?
Well, we spoke about it last week. That's binary, isn't it? Binary for 103 1100111.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, welcome to Pod 1100111 of the Gerry Anderson Podcast.
That's right. I'm Richard James, and you are?
Jamie Anderson.
I thought you were. We're here for the next hour and a half or so with usual stuff. But if you're just joining us, you must be wondering, well, what is the usual stuff? Well, let me tell you. First of all, we've got some FAB Facts coming up very shortly. An interesting and informative fact from the Gerry Anderson universe that will be discussed and picked at random. We then have the first part of an interview with model builder extraordinaire.
A lovely bottle builder.
Yes,
what a great
David
word.
Tremont will be talking to Jamie a little later on. We've got Chris Dale's amazing randomiser, of course, whereby he sits down in front of a random Gerry Anderson episode and gives us his thoughts and comments. We also have some emails, because people have been sending them in to podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. I'll be reading out some tweets, because people have been hashtagging us Gerry Anderson Podcast. And we'll be heading over to our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/Podsterons, to see what our friends have been up to there. Phew! It gets longer and longer. And I've missed something out, Jamie.
Oh, what have you... You can't possibly miss anything out, surely not.
I've got a surprise for you.
Oh, not again.
Oh, yeah. You'll see.
Well, I can't wait for that.
I can tell by your eyes.
By my size.
That is excitement, isn't it, in your eyes? Or is it loathing?
It could be one or other. We'll know once you've delivered your surprise in due course, I suppose.
Okay, fair enough.
Would you like to get things rolling with a FAB fact?
Oh, suppose.
Now, time for this week's FAB Facts.
Well, Richard,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you know about this section, but it's called FAB Facts, and what I've got here is a book of FAB Facts, and I flick through the book of FAB Facts, and then I want you to shout FAB at a random point. Make sure it's random, though, and then I'll stop flicking through the book of FAB Facts, and when I've got to that page where you shouted FAB, I'll stop and hopefully read it's a FAB fact. How do you feel about that?
Mildly interested.
Okay, fine. Well, let's do it anyway and see if you feel more interested once I've done me flicking.
Let's
Here
go.
we go.
Fab!
Ooh, Oh, Richard, it's a good year.
Oh, is it?
It's a fine vintage for Gerry Anderson-ness.
Yeah.
It's 1965.
Oh.
What happened then?
Thunderbirds?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, here we go. So it's a Thunderbirds Fab Fact. One of your favourite episodes, I believe, Richard, Day of Disaster.
Well, of course.
Of course, most listeners will know, but it's the one where a Martian Space Pro rocket falls off a bridge and ends up being stuck at the bottom of a river. Mm-hmm. You know that one. All
Yep.
very dramatic. Anyway, Penelope and Parker in that episode are tasked with causing a distraction to divert the attention of onlookers in order to give Brains a chance to sneak up to the bridge's control room.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Lady Penelope being Lady Penelope, she's not the most subtle, is she? I mean, when she deals with the Hood when he runs away and Trapped in the Sky, she blows him off the motorway and it goes off and blows up and it's all a bit of a disaster. It's not really subtle dealing with, is it?
No, but we don't want subtle, do we?
No, of course not.
No.
Anyway, so as I've just described there, her idea of a distraction is probably to go and blow something up.
Yeah.
Specifically, in this case, an abandoned research centre, part of which is actually from Stingray.
Really?
Yes. Thank you for that. It's the interior wall of Stingray's pen.
Oh, right.
So in that episode, we actually see the wall twice. Firstly, Fab 1 parks in front of it, and in that shot you can see where it used to say Stingray Pen 3, well, it's been covered up with a panel. But otherwise, it looks largely unchanged, so you probably will recognise it. Then, later on, when Parker opens fire with Fab 1's machine guns, we cut to a shot of the same wall being blasted, but now the footage has been flopped to make it look like a different building.
Yeah,
good old trick there in filming.
Yes, absolutely.
It is yet another slightly sad indication of how easily a model from one show could become cannon fodder for another.
Yeah.
But there you go, we weren't going to make any more Stingray, so why not blow it up?
Yeah, fair enough, yeah. Yeah, but I mean, that does make sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course, and by this point they had a huge stock of props and model sets and buildings and all sorts of stuff which were regularly reused.
Yeah.
But in this case, we need something which is going to get fire damaged.
Yeah.
Stingray's over. It says Stingray on it. We're going to have to cover it up and mess around with it anyway, so we might as well destroy it.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the wonder is that it didn't happen more often, in a sense, isn't it? Because you'd think that's a great way of saving money for a start, isn't it?
Well, it probably happened more than you think. I mean, even on Firestorm, for example, when we were making the pilot minisode, there were bits and pieces that came from other productions, sometimes decades old, that have been saved by people. That were repurposed and then maybe destroyed or even chucked away at the end of production.
Gosh.
It's just the way it is.
Yeah, well...
You recycle these things.
Yeah, it's true. I did a film of Wind in the Willows many, many years ago, and part of our filming took place on the set from the original Batman Tim Burton movie at Shepperton Studios, when we were in the dog meat factory, if anyone has seen the film.
Nice!
Yeah.
There you go. So it's not just recycling on Anderson shows, it happens throughout the industry.
Yeah, that's right.
A nice little example for you.
And indeed on the podcast, we're regularly recycling old ideas and jokes, aren't we? So, we're carrying on in that vein.
But very much like energy, it can't be destroyed, only transformed into something else, so they'll keep coming back again and again.
Like it. That's great.
Right, that brings us, in an ugly way, to the end of this week's
Reusable Fact! Lovely. Well, that was a good one. I enjoyed that. Interesting. Now I'm going to head on over to some emails because people have been sending them in by the drove to podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. For example, Duncan Moss. It's always nice to hear from Duncan. Hi, Jamie and Richard. With so many people in the UK and other territories wanting an ultimate Blu-ray Thunderbirds release in the correct 4:3 screen ratio, I hope it will finally be released in 2025 for the 60th anniversary, which is only 5 years away. I had the German edition, but the telecine process has been sloppy and could show more in the frame. We would expect all the extras from the vintage DVD release, such as the black and white interviews and Sugar Smacks, FAB and Zoom adverts, and it would be great to have the audio recordings made and written by Shane Rimmer as Scott to help promote the show in the USA. Yes, wouldn't it, Duncan? He says, I also live in hope that a lost Zoom TV advert might be unearthed by then for the release. The advert involves a large ship enclosed in a sea of ice which threatens to crush the ship. The captain sends out a mayday, which is picked up by Gordon in Thunderbird 4, who tells him that he's sending up 2 Zoom missiles. They're fired at an upwards angle and crash through the ice, freeing the ship. I remember seeing this advert when I was about 6 in 1969, just a few weeks before Thunderbirds began a major rerun in the London weekend area. I do not think the advert was made when the others were a few years previously, but was brand new, possibly the last supermarionation project of the 1960s. Oh, interesting, isn't it? Could be.
I didn't know about that Zoom advert. It sounds quite cool, though, doesn't it?
Doesn't it? Absolutely. We'll see if we can dig that out. He says, perhaps if ITV Global have a look in their vaults for 1969, they might find it. Or some fellow fans have said that they think, I've imagined it, but I know it was real. Does anyone else remember it? Along with the Golden Shot Captain Scarlet episode, this could be another Anderson Holy Grail. Keep safe and all the best, Duncan. What's the Golden Shot Captain Scarlet episode, Jamie? Do you know about that, then? Obviously something of a holy grail among Anderson fans.
No, I don't. There you go.
Yeah.
So do inform us.
Yes.
Podsterons.
Yeah, Duncan, get back in touch. Tell me about that. That sounds interesting. Stephen Watson says, hi, Richard and Jamie, which is just the way I like it. He says, I've just this minute finished listening to part 2 of the interview with Chris. And this will be Chris Bowden from the last 2 podcasts. He says, I had wet eyes at the end. Chris came over as such a good-hearted man, so generous and so enthusiastic. His joy and I'm so lucky responses to so much in his life was very touching. It's people like him with big hearts who have been involved in Gerry's work over the years that make them so special, so they will resonate all these years later. Wonderful. With big affection, Stephen Watson. Isn't that nice?
Cheers, Stephen. Yes, and I shared that message with Chris, who was very touched and grateful for the sentiment. So thank you. And it's true. Chris is lovely. I mean, all of our guests on the podcast are lovely, aren't they, Richard?
Yes, they are. Yeah, exactly. And he also had some very nice things to say about the podcast, which is always welcome. And perhaps more guests should do that at the end of their interview. Just putting that out there.
Yes, I'll remind them that they have to say something nice in future.
Yeah. There we are. More emails coming up a little later on, and some tweets, and we'll head on over to the Facebook page as well.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to those.
Splendid.
But before we get there, we should probably tackle some Gerry Anderson news.
Let's tackle some news.
It's the Gerry Anderson News, Richard James.
Yes, it is the Gerry Anderson news, Jamie Anderson.
Good. Okay. Yeah. Now, I never thought I'd say this, Richard James, but soon at the Gerry Anderson store, we will have a small range of Gerry Anderson non-surgical face coverings available.
Right. Yes.
This is due to popular demand and the bizarre times in which we find ourselves.
Yes.
Because face masks are being recommended by a lot of governments around the world to protect those around you, we made it so. I mean, it just seems crazy, but there we go.
Yes.
So we've got a Terrahawks logo mask, a Terrahawks Zeroid mouth mask.
Okay, great.
And a new Captain Scarlet mask, which are all ready to pre-order, I think, now.
Lovely.
I mean, it just seems bizarre. But if you're going to wear a mask to protect those around you, you might as well do it heroically in an Anderson style.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, I don't know, it just feels like a good thing to do, really.
Yeah, great.
So it might encourage people to wear them too. So there you go. Go and grab those, and maybe more coming if you've got a request for a face mask design. Do let us know. Again, it feels so odd saying that.
Doesn't it? Yes.
In terms of speaking and the spoken word, segueing neatly-ish from face masks. Exactly. Yeah. It's going to sound weird, isn't it? Anyway, the new range of Gerry Anderson audiobooks from Big Finish and Anderson Entertainment are out tomorrow after the day of release. That's the 2nd of June.
Great.
Gemini Force 1, Black Horizon, read by Jacob Dudman. Into Infinity, the day after tomorrow, read by Robbie Stevens. Terrahawks, Expect the Unexpected, read by Robbie Stevens, are all out tomorrow. Now, there's a slight delay on Space Precinct Demeter City.
Is there?
Yes, Richard.
Oh, there's something I did.
Look at you acting.
We did talk about this before.
Yes, there's a slight delay due to technical issues, very minor, but just we want to make it really perfect for you, Podsterons and listeners. So that will be delayed slightly, probably by a week to 10 days, but it'll be out very soon. And if you've ordered a bundle, it will be added to your downloads later on, so you won't be missing out. It'll just be, out a little bit later. But I thought we would insert now a quick sample of The Day After Tomorrow, Into Infinity, read by Robbie Stevens.
Cool.
So here it is.
That's it. It's going to be a supernova. Supernova? David said. That's just about the most colossal explosion that ever was. The alarm continued its wail. The accompanying warning light flashed red, mirroring the sun outside Altares' space windows and the reasons behind its agitated flashing. "We've got to tell the captain," said Anna. Behind them, Jane shouted, "No!" They turned. "If you tell him, he'll stay in there. He'll take the risks," Jane said. "Jane, we're all at risk," said Anna. Bowen returned to the intercom. "Skipper," Masters acknowledged. "Yeah." "Okay, listen. We've got to get the ship away from here. That red sun is about to go supernova." Masters continued his repair work, the stress audible in his voice. "How much time?" "Minutes, Skipper. Just minutes. Can you do it?" Master said he could. Bowen switched off the intercom. Jane raced over to where the trio stood, her panic no longer contained. "But he's got to come out!" "He's got to fix the photon drive, Jane," said Anna. David offered, "Couldn't we use the rocket motors, use our secondary engines to get us out of the system?" "They haven't the power nor the speed," said Bowen. "They'd never pull us clear in time." Jane again faced the clock. 13 minutes. Her father had nearly run out of time. Masters remembered the house on Rankin Lane. It was long before Altares. He was fixing something, maybe the solar-based heating system that warmed the cottage's water supply. Whatever the repair job, the thing rewarded him with a painful jolt that travelled up his wrist before dispersing harmlessly. A simple, sharp warning, so long ago that he couldn't remember how he'd earned it. But the body never truly forgot, and the sting pulsed again all these years later, shocking him out of the past. He realized he'd locked up and was barely still standing, almost slumped over the photon drive's manifold. Shaking fully out of the daze, he cursed whatever time had been lost and refocused. The drive unit, if he didn't complete the repair, the giant red eye drawing Alteres into its unwanted embrace would finally blink, and then... Masters resumed. Rankin Lane was a good place, and he'd been happy there with Jane and her mother. So much so that when Sylvia died, the only chance at being happy again had been to go as far away from that place and all they'd lost there as was possible. They'd travelled so far that even the computers didn't recognise the stars, and one of those stars was about to devour them. He worked the replacement drive unit into position and secured it. Then Masters slid down to the base of the manifold. A few more connections and he'd be done. Only he worried the seconds wouldn't be there, and that time had run out.
What a lovely reading voice that
Yes.
Robbie Stevens has.
Yeah.
So if you want to enjoy several hours of Robbie Stevens, many more hours of Jake Dudman, and soon some hours of Richard James,
Yes, imagine.
then you'll want to buy the bundle. Now, if you want to listen to it on your Big Finish app, you must buy through bigfinish.com. If you want to download directly to your device, you can download from Big Finish or from the Gerry Anderson store. It doesn't matter where you get it from, whatever your preference is. But yeah, go and grab the bundle now. And if these go well, there's more coming anyway, but if they go well, we'll be expanding the Gerry Anderson range over time. And there are some exciting plans for this year and next year and even beyond.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Now, another thing on Big Finish, just quickly, this isn't quite Anderson related, although I think there's some Anderson inspiration taken here. Nicholas Briggs, friend of the show, host of the Benji and Nick show and the Big Finish podcast, and executive producer and creative director for Big Finish, voice of the Daleks, fellow Baldy, fellow human, fellow Doctor Who fan.
Yeah.
I mean, he's many things.
He really is. Yeah.
But he's also the creator of a new Big Finish original called The Human Frontier. Now, if you enjoyed Space 1999 in particular, I think you will likely enjoy The Human Frontier. It's a really cool setup. I won't spoil it for you, but there's a free excerpt on the Big Finish podcast, I think on the Big Finish website too. Go and listen, see what you think. But it's, to me, has some Anderson-esque vibes and influence. And Chris Thompson, the lovely illustrator and designer and CG man who does so much of our t-shirt work and logo design and all sorts of other stuff, has done a lot of trailers and design work for The Human Frontier too. So go and have a look at that and see what you think. It's not often we plug something non-Anderson on here, unless it's one of your books, Richard.
Yeah, which is fair enough.
Speaking of which, how are your books going? What's the latest on the Bowman of the Yard series?
What's the latest? Well, thank you very much, Jamie. Well, I've got 3 novels out now. Head in the Ice, Devil in the Dock, Body in the Trees. 6 short stories. First 4 of which have now been bundled up and released as a single volume called City of Death. Anyway.
Oh, how funny.
Yeah, I know, you can find out more. Just go to bowmanoftheyard.co.uk. Sign up for my newsletter and, I'll send you some free short stories. How's that? Carry on.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Pluggy, plug. Now, finally, the Tracy Island Mate competition is now closed. We had nearly 100 entries, would you believe?
Brilliant.
Some amazing stuff. Judging will take place this week and next, and we'll try and announce the winners on the next podcast, or maybe the one after, depending on how timing works out. But thank you to all of you who entered. Some amazing work, some really creative approaches, some great teams of parents and kids, brothers and sisters, all working together. Really, really lovely stuff. So thank you all. If you'd like to see us do more sort of make and construction type competitions, or maybe you want us to do some short story competitions, something like that.
Oh, yes.
We'd love to look at that. If you're interested, let us know. Drop us a line, podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. But I think that brings us to the end of this pluggy plug competition-y tishany news.
That was the news. That was the news. Oh yeah, good, great.
What was that pause for?
Well, I was thinking of something witty, but I couldn't. It failed me.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so I just ploughed on. Anyway, now you're listening to the Gerry Anderson Podcast. Of course, you mustn't forget to subscribe to us. Do it now on whichever platform you're listening to us on. Follow us or subscribe, and that means that you'll hear every episode as soon as it appears. Also, you can leave us a nice rating, and leave us a nice 5 or 4 star if you'd like.
Why are you offering them 4 stars?
Well, I just didn't want to presume.
Well, I mean, there are some 1-star reviews out there, so Yeah.
Right, okay. Well, leave us a few nice words and share us with your friends so they can get to hear us too. We're going to head on over to our Facebook group now, facebook.com/groups/Podsterons.
Hurrah.
Yes, and they've been working on a new mini fanzine for younger fans and also a downloadable colouring book for smaller and larger Podsterons. Mark Wilson has posted there, I know this will likely never happen even in my or our lifetime, but watching Operation Crash Dive tonight got me dreaming already. How amazing would it be for one day some eccentric millionaire to think, I want to build a working, life-size Thunderbird 2. Imagine the feeling, being able to fly in a real Thunderbird 2. Nice one, Mark. I think it might need a bit of work, because I'm not sure it's that aerodynamic, to be honest. And I wonder, would it fly? It's rather like the Bumblebee, isn't it?
Well, it's the lifting body theory, isn't it?
Yeah.
But there was that airship the last couple of years that looked very much like Thunderbird 2.
Yeah, yes, that's right. Martin Smith posted, anyone else watching the launch live? This will be Elon Musk, as I know him. Everyone else knows him as Elon Musk, of course. His latest venture. I've just heard, he says, Elon Musk talk about Moonbase Alpha as a future project.
Yeah. He's a big Space 1999 fan.
Yeah.
He tweets out Space 1999 stuff from time to time.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe one day, Richard, maybe for the 200th podcast, we can get Elon Musk on.
That would be a coup, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't it be?
On a similar theme, Morty Vicker says, isn't there something quintessentially Anderson about the anticipation on the day of a big space launch? A welcome technological success story in the making. Imagining Brains, Jeff and the boys watching the live broadcast. All good wishes to astronauts Bob and Doug, SpaceX and NASA. Of course, it didn't go up in the day, did it? On the day it was meant to because of weather conditions. But by the time you hear this, I'm assuming it might well have happened.
Hopefully it will have done, yes. Yeah. Exciting. It's got a real new sci-fi look to it. I think the astronauts' suits and stuff. It's
absolutely right.
It's really leapt on from a style and a vision that has been fairly consistent since the 60s, really.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
So
it's
very cool.
And finally, Hugh Morn posted, I received a promotional email from Tesco tonight, and the first line I saw displayed the words Jamie's homeschool dinner stir fry. I was disappointed that it turned out to be Jamie Oliver instead of a certain other Jamie, but who thinks our own Jamie Anderson should host his own home cooking series with Anderson references galore, which, Jamie, got me thinking.
Oh no, is this your surprise?
Are you ready for a quick fire 5? Right, ready for these?
Not really, but go on.
5 options between Anderson-inspired dishes. Captain Blue Cheese or Lieutenant Greens?
I'm going to be good and say Lieutenant Greens.
Oh, well done. Captain Black Pudding or Tin-Tinned Tomatoes?
Captain Black Pudding.
Trace seafood platter or Yorkshire Pudding?
Gosh, Trace seafood platter.
Right. Duck à l'orin or Lady Penelope and Parmesan soup?
I love a bit of duck à l'orin.
Yeah, of course you do. And finally, Torchy the Battery Boysenberry cheesecake or Commander Sam Short crust pastry?
Sam Short crust pastry. I'm not going to get Torchy anything. Wow.
And that concludes this surprise edition of Quickfire 5.
That was quite something.
Well, thank you, and thanks to you for the inspiration over on our Facebook page. I just must mention, actually, one post really caught my eye from Dina, who's just joined the group, and simply said, I have found my people. Thank you for letting me in this group. Isn't that nice? Yeah.
Welcome. You are one of us. Dina. You will be like us. Oh, wrong show. Sorry.
Yeah, it is slightly, yeah. But very good. Yeah, thanks very much. Head on over to facebook.com/groups Podsterons. Join in the fun.
Yes, I mean it is fun, isn't it?
It is. Lots of stuff going on there.
It's a happy bunch making slightly mocking videos of you and I, Richard. I noticed this week. So
well, fair enough.
Thanks for that, team. Right, well, we've heard from Podsterons.
Yes.
Turns out that our interviewee this week and next week and the week after is also a Podsteron. Would you believe?
Really?
Can you believe that people like those that work for Weta in New Zealand and build things for stuff like Lord of the Rings listen to this blooming podcast?
It's extraordinary. What are they thinking? Have they not got enough to do?
Well, I think it's sort of, they're thinking, well, I could be doing something worse.
Yeah.
You know.
At least I'm not on the Gerry Anderson podcast. Except now he is.
Exactly. Now he is, yes.
That's how bad things have got.
Poor David. Well, he's on lockdown, poor thing, out in New Zealand, although they're now out of it. This was recorded on lockdown. He'd been stuck at home for some time.
Yeah.
We've been trying to arrange this for a while, because New Zealand's 12 hours ahead-ish.
Yeah, crikey.
So trying to find the right time has been difficult, especially with David, because he just works all hours. Fascinating, super creative guy. And it's a love of Thunderbirds from his childhood, cemented by a very clever dad who was very good at making things that brought David to where he is now. So in part one, we talk all about that. We'll go on to talk about his career, his love of Anderson shows in general is studied throughout. But this is the first part of 3 with a chat with David Tremont.
Hello, I'm David Tremont. I'm a model maker at Weta Workshop and obviously a major Gerry Anderson fan.
That sounds about right to me. What a great introduction. Totally perfect. Now, am I right in saying that we first met in Slough, England, David? Is that right?
Yes, you came in to watch us working on Thunderbirds 65, or 1965, and you showed me some pictures of this amazing production you were working on, Firestorm. And so kind of the first introduction to you was sitting on the couch in the studio looking at your laptop at these amazing things. And I just so desperately wanted to build all of that stuff. It was just very, very cool.
Well, you definitely ended up building some stuff for it, and we will get to that later on. But the virtue of the fact that you ended up coming over from New Zealand to work on Thunderbirds 1965 and be part of recreating something that was then 50 years old suggests that you may have been a fan as a youngster, which kind of inspired all that. Is that the case, perhaps?
Yeah, kind of is. Yeah, that 1965 show, I found it on Kickstarter and backed it, and literally 5 minutes later I got an email. Are you the David Tremont that works at Weta Workshop? Do you want to help us on our show? And it's like instantly wrote back, yes. And very soon I was building models for it, and not long after that on an aeroplane, winging my way to Slough to help out on the show. And it's like from a young lad watching it and dreaming of making models like I saw on Thunderbirds to actually doing that stuff, the full circle. That was kind of the dream come true. But I was born at a very young age. In a time long before Thunderbirds came on screen and Doctor Who.
Surely not that long before.
Oh, good 10 years before. Yeah, I was born in 58.
Goodness me. I say, listeners, David doesn't look a day over 35, so he's doing something
70.
right out there.
I'm not even 70. Yeah, I was born in 58, so things like Thunderbirds and Doctor Who, they didn't exist. We didn't have a TV, and so XL5 and Stingray and Supercar, I never got to see those shows. I kind of heard about or knew about them from friends at school who had seen the stuff, but there weren't that many TVs around. And where we lived in Sydney, we couldn't get any of the local TV stations. We could only get a regional network that came down from further up the coast. So we had one station. That's all we could get to watch. And if those shows weren't on it, we didn't see it. So I got to see Doctor Who because it was on the national carrier, which we could see. So I got to see toy catalogues, and so I don't have a memory of the first time I saw Thunderbirds because I've seen it so much. It suddenly happened and just never stopped for years. Every day I was watching Thunderbirds because the stations were playing it every day for years. So I can't remember the first time I saw it. We certainly couldn't see it at home, but friends at school could see this new show. And so I could, race home from school, throw the bag inside, carry on down the road to my friend's place to watch Thunderbirds. And, of course, only in black and white. We didn't have colour. So I had the only way I knew the colour of these things was from dinky catalogues and annuals. Like this was my first annual I got on my 8th birthday.
Nice.
It's well worn out and been repaired. Yeah, so you can see all the torn. My mum's repaired it several times.
It's been well thumbed and tugged around, that thing.
Boy, has it ever. Yes.
As it should be.
Watching Thunderbirds at my friend's place, several different places, down the road, down the corner, a couple of suburbs away, up the next suburb. I was all over the place watching Thunderbirds. Finally, we figured out what the problem was with our reception at our place, and Dad built a massive antenna way above the roof on a huge pole, and we could get the local station that played Thunderbirds, so I could watch Thunderbirds at home.
Oh, lovely.
And it was just a game changer, life-changing.
But why? What about this kids' TV show gives you those phrases that you can use against it now?
I always saw it as models, because at that time you couldn't buy all the toys in blister packs that you can buy now. You can get any toy for any show you ever want now. Back then, if you wanted it, you made it yourself, whether it be out of cardboard. My dad was great at making models and out of timber. He was a really good carpenter. It wasn't his profession, but he just made us toys and models. There's a Bloodhound missile he made for me when I was probably 6.
God, that's lovely.
Just because I loved watching these things on TV. And he just carved these out of wood. We had tons and tons of toys and aeroplanes and just things like that. So I always understood you can make stuff if you want it. So when I saw Thunderbirds, it clicked instantly. I didn't really care about the puppets or the stories other than things blowing up. But the models, the machines, which that blowing up stuff kind of led to other parts of my career. So I always saw special effects, blowing things up in special effects. I always saw the stuff as models, and that's all I ever wanted to do was to make those models. And, of course, I went through the phase with all my friends. We were going to build a secret base somewhere when we grew up and have real machines to go out and do stuff. All a bit funny and daft when I think about it now, but we were so serious in there.
Not at all.
Running around. And so one day a film, Thunderbirds A Go, came to the local cinema. And, of course, you don't see much in the way of advertising back then. He had no idea these things existed until they were at the cinema. And so I was given my $2 or whatever it was at the time. Probably, actually, no, back then it might have been $1.50 or something to go and watch Thunderbirds. And it was in colour, big screen.
Yeah, wow.
That just notched it all up. It was probably summertime. As soon as that movie ended, I ran home. It was about 1.5 miles. Ran home full pelt. By the time I got home, I was nearly dying of exhaustion, heat exhaustion. My dad was out relaxing in the bedroom reading because us kids were gone for a while, so I gave him a few minutes rest. I just burst in and exploded at him about Thunderbirds, what I had seen, and I think I just talked, or not talked, just exploded. I just kept on Thunderbirds, all this stuff, and Dad, can you make me Thunderbird models? And so he did. And so this was the first one he made me. It was a birthday. A
lovely Thunderbird 2.
Thunderbird 2, all carved out of wood. And, of course, it's got a pod that comes out and the door flips down. Inside Thunderbird 2 was Thunderbird 4. It doesn't have a screen. And because to fit it in, you take.
Yeah, I think we can forgive it not having its front torch. But
soon after that, Thunderbird 1 came out. Of course, it's got swing wings.
Folding wings. Wow, these are great models. But these are the originals that your dad made you?
Original wooden toys. That's Thunderbird 3. He could never figure out how to do Thunderbird 5. He could figure out stuff making it in wood, but he didn't know about kit bashing. So he couldn't figure out how to do a Thunderbird 5 because it was all shapes and stuff. He could have done something, but it wouldn't have been accurate. But, these models they're over 50 years old now.
They're beautiful, just lovely.
And been on so many rescue missions around the backyard and they survived.
You must have been the envy of all of your friends of those models, though, or did you not let anybody touch them?
Probably didn't let too many people touch them, but yes, definitely an envy. you could obviously buy the dinky toys and stuff. We had to save our pocket money for some time to be able to afford those, but they were just nothing compared to these things. These were kind of the creme de la creme of Thunderbird models. And, of course, with that, we end up getting cardboard boxes and stuff and building Tracy Island with all the hangers to scale, so taking up all the lounge room with...
Scale for those things?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was all good fun.
I have to say, David, normally when I talk to people and they've ended up with a career in film and TV, and there's kind of a level of inspiration from Thunderbirds or whatever, the path is not always clear, and it's not all the influence is not always clear. But with you,
it's absolute.
Expressing your passion as a kid, your passion for it as a kid and your fascination, your obsession with it, plus having a dad who did that for you and created those models. I mean, your path was set. It's almost like there's nowhere else you could go from there.
There was nowhere else I wanted to go. I wanted to make stuff.
Yes.
So the Thunderbirds was the magic and just wanting to make stuff. And, of course, Doctor Who coming out at a similar time, getting to watch that from the start behind the couch. That was like the adventures, the stories. And but Thunderbirds was all I wanted to do was to make models. I had no idea how to go about doing that. Freelancers, you don't go freelance. You get a career and work for a company. That's what you do. But I couldn't do that. I just could not cope with that concept ever. So my pursuit was making stuff, and I spent a lot of my youth figuring out how to make things. And slowly over the years getting known, getting a portfolio together, and getting to work for advertising companies and other model companies that do things for commercials and so forth, and eventually broke into the film industry, making props and costumes and models and stuff for films. And just that want to be on a movie set or in a studio. And first time I actually walked into a studio was on TV commercial, and 10 minutes later I knew how damn boring it was unless you've got a job to do.
Yeah, you're exactly right there.
When you're wrangling a prop or whatever, your piece of that production is only going to take a little while, but no one has any idea when, so you're going to sit around all day waiting for it. I can tell you a funny story. This is only 10 years ago. I was working on a monster movie where I was on set for several days in an old, about to demolish supermarket chain building, whatever it was. My job was to kill a lot of people horribly over a bunch of days with all of these creature components, claws and tentacles and whatever.
Nice.
But sitting around all day on the first day, just waiting and waiting. They're having a lot of trouble getting other things shot and a few problems. And I kind of, it won't be long. The hours went by and lunch and then into the afternoon, and I desperately needed to go to the can. So I thought, they're not going to call me. Been here all day, nothing's going to happen. So I went downstairs, sitting there quietly contemplating. I heard another person come in and cubicle up, and I could hear his radio chatter going. And over that radio chatter from a few cubicles up, David Tremont, can you please come to set? Crying out loud. Anyway, I got there on time.
Just by the seat of your pants.
Literally. Yeah, it's like a scene out of a movie, racing in, doing up the belt and all that sort of stuff.
What an image. So before we get into that kind of entry point into film and TV and stuff, what about other Anderson shows?
Oh, yeah.
Did that Thunderbirds model stuff fascinate you enough that you then looked into or enjoyed other shows like Scarlet and Joe 90 and all that? I should say also, listeners, that when I called David, he was holding up a sign that said Joe 90 rules. Was that something like that you did?
Possibly.
Dropping him in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so tell me about the other shows, including that one.
Because, again, our TV was always a little bit limited, and my life ended up moving around a lot, working odd hours. It was really hard to lock down and find time and a place to watch TV, and just didn't get to see a lot of these shows until a lot later on, especially the older ones like Stingray and XL5 and stuff. I didn't get to see a lot of the older stuff until videotapes came out because they weren't played on TV anymore. Only Thunderbirds was over and over again. Every morning at 6 o'clock in the morning, I'll be up watching Thunderbirds. 7 days a week for years, just over and over again. But because it's all such a mishmash, I can't remember where I started seeing these other shows, whether it was on TV or it was on videotapes, because it was kind of all the above. But when I did get to see Captain Scarlet, it was... I loved it. It was absolutely brilliant and exciting and just great models and all that sort of stuff. It didn't have the magic that Thunderbirds. It didn't have that holding power that Thunderbirds had over me. Even though I loved it to death, it was still not Thunderbirds. It was like you get this little child with his favourite ratty teddy bear and mummy showing him the new teddy bear. No, I'm keeping this one.
So Thunderbirds was your ratty teddy bear?
That was my ratty teddy bear. Joe 90. Again, I wouldn't have seen those on TV as they came out. It would have been on videotapes. It just never seemed to be in the right place or have a reception that I could actually see the shows. And I still loved all of those shows. Secret Service was another one I didn't get to see until a lot later on.
No.
And they all still held a magic for me because they were puppets and special effects and just a whole bunch of really, really clever people doing brilliant stuff, inspiring stuff.
Yep.
Some of the stories got a little bit, some of the Thunderbird stories got a bit as well. But when they had little brats coming into it and crying out loud.
Yeah, give or take $1 million. I thought you were going to bring out that one. Yeah.
Yeah. yes. They lost their direction with that one, I think. But I also went to college for a little while to learn electronics because that was at a time when, never thought I could be a model maker. I really needed a job, as it were. So I spent a bit of time learning electronics and TV technician and stuff, and that was in the days when TVs were black and white and they had glowing glass valves in the back of them, long before colour TVs came out. And Space 1999 was coming out at that time, and it was not shown on any stations that we could see. But the book...
Oh, again.
Yeah, all of it. The novels were coming out, and so I was buying all the novelizations and reading them like crazy and looking at the photographs on the front covers of some of them. The American versions had photos. And it was like, oh, wow, I just can't wait to see this stuff. And my brother joined the police force, and he moved from Sydney down to Canberra to do his training with the police. He could see it down there, so he would tell me all about it, and I'd compare his description of the show to the novelisation of that episode. So when I finally got to see that, I was blown away by that. I loved all of that. Later shows, Terrorhawks. I kind of never really got into Terrorhawks. I never really got it. It's only kind of these days, and by actually listening to you and Richard talking about it on the podcast, I kind of more of an appreciation of it, what it was about.
An appreciation, if not an enjoyment.
Yeah. No, I kind of enjoy it for what it is more now than I did then. I kind of... Yeah. It's a bit odd. I didn't really get it.
It was very different. There's definitely a generational split when it gets to Terrorhawks. There are the kids who kind of were born and grew up in the 70s and all very early 80s. That was their first Anderson experience. And so for them, it holds a certain magic. But anyone who'd seen Thunderbirds and stuff before, and especially Space 1999, it's such a different tone and style. I can completely see why it wouldn't have come to your radar in the same way.
No, especially after 1999 and UFO, watching those shows and Doppelganger, all of that stuff was kind of quite high production value and great stories, and even though they're kind of very much stuck in their era, especially UFO. Oh boy.
Yes, there are always comments about Alec Freeman and his certainly early episode attitudes to women. There was a bit of a sex pest thing going on there.
Oh, yeah, that was just shameful. Yes, and their kind of feeble attempts at empowering women, as it were. Yeah, they're always there for the eye candy and not much else.
Yeah, not there for themselves. But lovely model work again. I mean, but peak Derek Meddings in some parts, do you think?
Yes, very much so. Yeah, I was really inspired by the miniatures of UFO. I just loved all of that stuff. And that's the kind of what I would love to take Thunderbirds to. Imagine redoing Thunderbirds with proper puppets and UFO-style miniatures and special effects and digital enhancement and stuff. You could do some magic with all of that. So a lot of the later programs, after Terrorhawks, never got to see any of that stuff until they came out on DVD. And so it's kind of in later life that I get to catch up with all the later productions. And, of course, being able to see the pilots here, like Into Infinity and so forth. Space Police didn't get to see until a lot later. And
The Investigator, did you have seen that?
Oh, the pilot, for Investigator, that was that was hammy.
I think that's rather generous to call it hammy. I mean, it's terrible.
It was an interesting concept that was never going to be going anywhere than the pilot.
No. I think even calling the concept interesting is generous. It was a hammy concept, poorly executed, probably is the best summary I can think of for it.
Yes. I was trying to be nice.
Don't bother, it's fine. Especially not about The Investigator. What about Space Precinct? No, he would totally agree with you. Space Precinct, Lavender Castle, New Captain Scarlet, did they come onto your radar? Obviously much, much later, 90s or 2000s.
Yeah, none of those shows came onto my radar until a lot later. I could only ever get to see those when they came out on DVDs and finally get to see all of these things. Sorry, Richard, I wasn't real keen on Police Precinct. It was a little bit odd.
The model work, though, nice model work by Steve Begg. Do you, appreciate that at least?
All the effects were quite good, but I could never really buy into the characters. They just weren't really...
Oh, interesting. Particularly that one, Orin, played by Richard James, that was really rubbish, yeah?
Yeah, that's the one that... Yeah, that character, that I just can't get that out of my head. For crying out loud. Shocking stuff.
I will definitely keep this in.
Yeah. No, I did enjoy it. It was fun. It's fun watching that stuff. But I guess I was hoping for something that was a little bit more serious, possibly a little bit more grown up.
Well, I think they were hoping for something a bit more serious and grown up. They were, with the original concept, they were really hoping to go down a kind of slightly more Blade Runner-y route. Dad's thing of not speaking down to the audience and aiming it slightly above, that this really, it would have suited a kind of...
Yes.
I was going to say PG-13 plus kind of age range, but the American financiers brought it down, brought in the family stuff. A lot of the stuff that's shoehorned in there, which takes the edge off of Space Precinct, I think, has again come from a non-creative source, which is always so frustrating to see.
Yeah, that wraps it up nicely. That's kind of the effect it had on myself and a lot of my colleagues and so forth. Speaking of colleagues, Thunderbirds, so many people of my generation that I've worked with for years and years, and people like Richard and Peter and stuff, they all grew up on Thunderbirds and absolutely inspired them to do what they do. Richard's always talking about Thunderbirds down in the workshop, and Peter's a huge fan. He's been trying to collect whatever's left existing of Thunderbirds for his own personal collection. He's commissioned all the puppets, everything. His collection's quite amazing. I've made him a couple of models for his collection.
I mean, he's got the what must be the biggest private collection of Thunderbird stuff in the world, right?
Yeah,
must be.
I got a phone call. I was at home. This is while I was shooting King Kong. I was at home. Richard phoned me up. It was getting on into the evening, and said, "Can you come down to the studio, please?" I thought, "What? Okay, is there a problem?" "Oh, no, it's just something that Pete and I want to show you." So, okay, I got back into my work clothes and trundled off down to the studio, which literally is just down the road. I could see it from my house. Got in through security into Peter's office. Peter was still on set. I walked past a table with a big cloth over it. And there's an odd shape under it out the corridor as I went down to the office. It's something familiar about that shape. And I walked past it, kept on going down to the office. Richard was there and a few other people were just all chatting, and Peter was another half an hour before he was finished. And finally he came in and come out and have a look at this. Followed him out with Richard and a few other people, and he pulls the cloth back. Fab 1. The puppet Fab 1 sitting there on the table, all in its glorious pink. And I was like, oh my God, I just lost it.
Amazing.
Yes. Hung around this thing for another hour. That's the model that Richard Gregory helped restore.
Yeah.
And
incredible. And it's beautiful that, I mean, I've got a picture which I will find you of me sat in front of that model when I was about 8, maybe. But at one point it was carted around for Dad's lecture tour. I'm pretty sure that's the same model.
Yeah, that would be there's only the one which never made. Yeah,
there is. I remember just kind of, because they had it on stage for the lecture tour as part of the display, and I remember just spending hours on my hands and knees crawling around, looking at it, looking in through the door, looking in through the glass in inverted commas, just the detail on the grill of the radiator, the lights, and just every bit of it has got some lovely shape to it. You know, whether it's the kind of curve and the overhang over the backs with the brake lights to the sort of precision sharpness across the bonnet and that kind of thing is just lovely. So I can imagine you pretty much doing the same thing as I did, right?
Oh yeah, I was just in heaven, just staring and touching it. It's like it was just so friggin' cool. It's impressive. It had been parked on its tyres for many years before it ended up down here. So the bottoms of the tyres are all flat, which is unfortunate. Whether they'll ever, because it's kind of lifted up a bit, whether they'll ever ease out, I've no idea. I haven't seen it for a while. But that was an experience. It was so cool.
Well,
lovely.
Our chat went on for some time. In fact, I should say that before we started, we chatted for nearly an hour.
Right, and then you hit record.
Yes, and then we recorded. Yeah. Then after we stopped, we talked for nearly another hour. It was a long chat.
Yeah.
But David's so lovely, such a nice guy. And, you know, we get a lot of people who work in the industry who are clearly very passionate about what they do and what they love. I'm not sure we've had anyone who is quite as passionate as David is. He just
Brilliant.
loves the shows. And, you know, him showing me during that interview when we were looking, you know, because we were on a video call as well, showing me the models that his dad made him all those years ago that he's still got that are in beautiful, beautiful condition. And they're not perfect representations of the ships on the show, but they are so beautifully made, so lovingly done.
Oh, amazing.
And they clearly mean so much to him because they catalysed his trajectory into working in film and TV.
Yeah, which is something we get so often. That's lovely.
But this is the power of, you know, parents supporting their kids' passions.
Yeah.
It's just so lovely. It's a lovely story. So thank you, David. So 2 more parts to come in the next couple of weeks. if you want to follow David's work on Facebook and Instagram, you can just search him out, David Tremont. And if you search for Let Slip the Droids of War...
Oh, yeah.
That is a book series that he's writing, still continues to write, all about model building. So if you want to get into it and get inspired, then have a search for that. More next week.
Mm-hmm.
What have you got, Richard, from around the Anderverse, the Podsteron-verse?
Let's head on over to the Twitterverse, shall we? A few people have been there. I say a few. I mean, lots, obviously, but I picked a few people who have tagged us
selected
over the last week. Yeah, hashtag Gerry Anderson Podcast, or they've been tagging him. I'm Jamie Anderson, or me, Richard N. James. For example, I think it's Kaimoru. Chimoru tweeted, "I love recreating pop culture characters in The Sims 4. And my latest project is Captain Scarlet and the Mysterons. What first drew me was the costume designs, but I quickly came to love this world and the many other worlds created by Gerry Anderson." Fan of Sims at all, Jamie? Ever played that?
I think I remember playing it very early days.
Yeah.
Never really got into it, probably because at the time it was quite buggy. There are a lot of sim-type things out, and Theme Hospital. I remember that being a game that I played.
Yeah, interesting.
Anyway.
But I bet if you could create your own Captain Scarlet and the Mysterons universe within Sims 4, you'd be there like a shot, wouldn't you?
Or maybe new Captain Scarlet.
Yes. Mike Plant, whose Twitter handle is Mike from Uncle, which I rather liked. Now, we've been seeing over the last few weeks people being interviewed at home on news programmes and so on because of the lockdown rules, and many people have been commenting on the books that people have in their bookshelves behind them. Well, Mike commented on a picture of Mark Kermode being interviewed in the last week, saying, "I'm still catching up on the podcast, but I spy a UFO soundtrack in this picture if you need more people to interview." So yes, Mark Kermode, obviously a fan. Big film and TV fan, we know. I'm sure he has some thoughts about Gerry Anderson, so maybe we'll look into that. Him and Pierce Brosnan, put them on the waiting list.
Because I went on Mark and Simon Mayo's show on Radio 2, would that have been?
Yes, perhaps.
A little while ago, and I gave Mark one of my UFO Dinky Interceptors as a gift because I know he's such a fan.
There you go.
So we had a nice chat. So yes, we'd love to chat to Mark. He's very, very busy though. Difficult to get hold of, in fact. But maybe one day.
Maybe one day. Mark Simpson-Wedge, who we know, of course, tweeted about the new Gemini Force 1 audiobook, saying, "This is brilliant because as a dyslexic person, I find it easier to listen to audiobooks than reading books." Fantastic, Mark. Yeah, plenty there for you. Simon, on a similar theme.
Hang on,
yes?
I'm going to stop you.
Yeah.
Unless your next one's about GF1.
Not particularly.
Well, how about now we have a very quick excerpt, exclusive, from Gemini Force 1, Black Horizon. Didn't expect that, did you?
No.
Something had made the man tumble. Now, to judge by the feed on the screen, he wasn't moving. The LED timer on his wrist remained in view, confirming just over half a minute of juice left in the tanks. Ben heard Caroline's voice. "Can you water the wider area? That might reduce the temperature for long enough." "Good idea," Ben agreed. "It might buy them a few minutes of extra time before the heat gets unbearable." Ben undid his restraints. There had to be something he could do. "Let me help." Caroline shouted across the intercom. "Benedict Carrington, you stay where you are. It's dangerous." "Your mom's got a point," said Addison. Scorpio dipped a couple of meters. "This is as low as we're going," Julia announced. "I'm directing the water cannon in a circle around Paul. I can't risk soaking him because it'll damage the jetpack. Addison, I'm opening a panel in the ceiling just beside the door. You'll find an anchored rope with leg straps inside. Put it on. I'll get in close enough to put you on the ground, but the flames are too close for me to stay at that height for long." "Don't worry about that," Addison said. "Just get me on the ground, but stay close."
It's very exciting. Nice.
Oh, isn't it? See, I think Jake has brought a lovely, youthful exuberance to Gemini Force 1, which is exactly what you do in your work, Richard. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, what was next?
On a similar theme, Simon tweeted, "Accidentally pre-ordered some Terrorhawks and Space Precinct. I never knew Richard James was in Space Precinct. He's never mentioned it on the Gerry Anderson podcast. Cheeky." Ian Coomer says, "Great to see a Gemini Force 1 audiobook being released. The Kickstarter for this is what reignited my Anderson fandom, and I'd love to hear an interview with MG Harris on the podcast, if at all possible."
Well, I think that would be perfect for a few weeks' time in the wake of GF1 release, because there are 2 more GF1 books to come, and who knows, beyond that there might be some other ways to expand the universe. So
Great.
MG Harris, we're coming for you.
Yes, lock your doors. And finally on Twitter, Jojo tweeted, trying out Spotify UK for the first time, and it already seems better than Amazon Music. Also, I can finally download and listen to all the Gerry Anderson podcasts. Why didn't I think about doing this sooner? Yeah, why didn't you think about doing it sooner? There's 102 others of them.
You'll be thinking twice by the time you get to 103.
Yes, that's right. So yes, thank you everybody for tweeting as usual and hashtagging us Gerry Anderson Podcast. Do the same for the next few days and I'll read out your tweets next time.
I look forward to them. Until then, though, we need to be kept busy, don't we, really? So
yeah, we do, really.
Yeah. I think the best thing to keep us busy will be an episode of the Randomiser.
Okay.
So Chris has gone on holiday, I think, possibly by mistake.
Right, yes. I mean, that's contravening lockdown rules, isn't it? But okay.
Well, he's off world, so maybe he's okay. But let's go and catch up with him wherever he is. Where are you, Chris?
Wow. This place is really something. Oh, hello everyone. Well, what with the 100th podcast a few weeks ago, and then the 100th randomizer directly after that, it's been feeling like a bit of an anticlimax going back to normal. Got me feeling a little bit lost, you know, wondering where I can go next, really. So I've decided to take a break from it all on a rather beautiful planet. I didn't catch the name, but I found this really lovely temple. Well, I say temple, it's more like a palace, actually. It's just the place for me to gather my thoughts in silent contemplation. And I can see there's already somebody else here with the same idea, although it looks like she's already got the only chair in the room, but oh, no matter, I'll just sit down on the steps near her and put the randomizer down as gently as possible so as not to... Sorry.
Do you mind? I'm trying to meditate.
Oh, of course, yes. You carry on. Sorry.
Thank you.
Oh, it's just I've got a lot on my mind, that's all. I mean, what with the... Sorry.
Look, I also have a really stressful job, okay? I finally have an afternoon off, and I just want to be by myself for a little while, not listening to you talk to yourself.
Oh, but I'm not talking to myself. No. I'm talking to them.
Who?
Well, the listeners, of course.
There's nobody else here.
Anyway, enough about me. What do you do now? You look vaguely familiar.
Well, when I'm not here, there's a lot of space travel involved in my job.
Oh, sounds important.
Oh, it is.
So you and I are in the same line of work, then?
Probably not.
Oh. Well, Marina and I, we travel all over the universe in our Eagle, you know, saving planets, battling aliens, crashing.
Since you're obviously going to keep talking anyway, why don't you tell me about this machine you've got here?
Well, this here is the Randomizer. In this is every single Gerry Anderson television episode and feature film ever made. And I travel the universe asking people to press the button to choose what I have to watch and then give comments on.
And if I press the button today, will you leave? Like, right now?
Well, yes, if you like.
This button, is it?
Yes.
This randomizer of yours, is it a computer?
Of course it is. Why, is there something wrong with it?
Oh, nothing. Just that I've seen more up-to-date technology in museums.
Oh. Well, anyway, there's a little printout just come out of the slot there which will tell us what today's episode is. So if you could just...
I get the idea. Okay, let's see. Well, the show is Four Feather Falls, and the episode is Kidnapped. I don't know, is that good or...
Oh, that's very good, yes. Our earliest episode yet from Gerry Anderson's Puppet Western.
You watch puppet shows about cowboys?
Well, no, not all the time. I mean, I have to do it for this because, you know, it's part of my job, obviously. But otherwise, if you're asking me if I watch puppet shows with cowboys on a regular basis, not that there's anything wrong with that, of course.
Oh, no, not at all. Didn't you say something about leaving?
Yes, I did. Well, thank you ever so much, Ms...
Your Majesty.
Oh, no, dear, no. I'm not that important, really.
No, I meant that's what you should be calling me.
You are?
As Galactic Empress.
Galactic Emperor? Oh, come on, you're joking. Aren't you?
Well, that depends. Are you willing to stake your life on it?
Oh, no, of course not. Your Majesty, I'm so sorry, I had no...
Okay, goodbye, Chris.
And you know my name.
Guards! Seize this intruder and throw him out, and don't forget his random thingy.
Oh, yes. Well, thank you very much, Your Majesty. It's been lovely to meet you. Oh, magnificent one. And I'm so sorry about all the... Hey, there's a statue of you over here.
Yes, I know. I had it put there when the palace was built. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Yes, goodbye.
And good riddance. Okay, now maybe I can get some peace and quiet around here. Who is Gerry Anderson, anyway?
The 4 feathers on this hat are magic. They enable Tex Tucker's dog and horse to speak, and his guns to fire without him even touching them. And now, another exciting adventure from 4 Feather Falls.
Well, it's a 4 Feather Falls episode with a couple of firsts on the randomizer today. Firstly, thank you so much to the Galactic Empress for making the selection for us. We are not worthy, we are not worthy, we are not worthy. Thank you so much, Mom. But secondly, this is a bit of a pivotal episode in the, not just in the 4 Feather Falls as a series, but also within the wider Gerry Anderson story, because this episode was the very first Gerry Anderson episode produced at Slough. This is episode 2 of 4 Feather Falls, Kidnapped. Episode 1 had been produced at Islet Park, was the last Anderson production made there, was the pilot for 4 Feather Falls. So everything produced from then on was over in Slough. So, you know, it may not look like it, but the residents of 4 Feather Falls have relocated since we last saw them in the first episode.
Yes, you all know why this place is called 4 Feather Falls.
Now we're getting a recap.
I remember telling you how Tex Tucker, he's the sheriff around,
of the events of the first episode.
The Indian chief with the magic powers.
And I have a feeling, and I'm... Hold on a second, I'm just going to grab... I'm just going to check. Hang on. Keep watching it. I'm just checking.
Calamacuya rewarded him by giving him 4 magic feathers. Tex wears these feathers in his hat, and is mighty proud of them. Mind you, there was a time when Big Chief Calamacuya needed white man's magic. And it all started when Pedro got kinda short of money. And that always means trouble.
Right, I'm back. Yes, I had a feeling, and I've just checked I was right, that this episode was, although it's the second made, and seems to follow on quite closely from the first episode, it was actually one of the last to be shown, as
4 Feather Falls?
As sometimes happened with the Anderson shows. I remember the second episode of Stingray, which again follows directly on from the first, was shown as like episode 34 or something. It was
then maybe
always a bit random, the broadcast order on these things. Anyway, here's Pedro and Fernando.
But who?
Plotting again.
What about the Doc Haggerty?
They'd pay big money to get there.
Watching a kidnapping plot.
You're real smart.
And here's Doc Haggerty slowly making his way down Main Street.
Are you a doc around here?
Well, if I'm not, a lot of people are going to be in trouble.
Oh my god.
Can you come with me pronto?
Right, so,
it's my amigo.
Fernando and Doc are, they're both on horseback, they both have horses, and it seems to be a battle between the two horses as to who is the more sinister. I think I would have to say that Doc's horse easily wins. It looks like Satan has thoroughly set up shop inside that horse, my goodness. Again, I know it's very primitive, early days, and you can...
Pretty easy, eh?
You can sort of look past these things sometimes, but that was quite horrific, the expression on that horse's face. Proper zombie time, I think.
Gee, Tex, I wish you'd play a real tune instead of just strumming all day.
Okay, boss. In 4 Feather Falls.
Now, I'm not sure to what extent any 4 Feather Falls puppets were rebuilt or overhauled, moving from Islet Park to Slough. I've got a feeling it couldn't have been all of them, and I guess This is pure conjecture. I'm guessing some more were gradually replaced along the way. I mention this because Tex's mouth movements here
You're in town.
are
I'll never let you down.
well, they're a bit clumsy and they're a bit more. I don't know if prolonged is the word I'm looking for.
Why, you might.
I'm wondering if maybe also it might be that at present the puppet has no teeth, and I can't remember if he later got some. But there's something about the mouth movement during this song, as lovely as it is, because all the songs in 4 for the Falls are lovely. This is a bit.
Only place on earth to be.
Yeah, it's a bit early days for this puppet.
Oh, just for.
And I know that some of them, like Little Jake and Ma Jones, were definitely overhauled following the first episode. I'm just not quite sure how far into the series that would have been. One character who's absolutely perfect right out the gate, of course, is Dusty, because he's just he's just gorgeous. He's a lovely little doggy.
Heaven on the range.
Tex's mouth movements have completely lost sync with the dialogue there. Meanwhile, Doc is thoroughly tied up. He's now at Pedro and Fernando's lair.
Gets the sun after sundown. No, Pedro. You can't keep me here. Supposing someone's sick in the town. You know.
Oh, I didn't think of that. Well, off you go then.
Miles. Stop it, Doc. You're breaking my heart.
Well,
I love the maliciousness in Pedro as well that Kenneth Connor brings to it.
tell me, Dusty.
Even though he is a big crybaby when the chips are down.
Are you right now?
Yeah. Just as if something's going to happen any minute.
Oh, that means... There he is. Kalamakuya.
You good man, Tex Tucker. Kalamakuya need help.
What kind of help, Chief?
Little Makuya, very sick.
Oh, no, not little Makuya.
White man's medicine.
Oh, real sorry to hear that, Chief. I'll go
You
get...
see, we got this thing called money, and I'm afraid this healthcare stuff ain't cheap.
But only white man's magic save Makuya.
Now, I'll admit, I've only really seen most 4 for the Falls episode once.
Out with it, but try and speak slower, Dusty.
But this is an episode I have seen more than once, because I think this was one of several that was on the Tape Trading Network back in the day. I seem to remember having this, A Little Bit of Luck, which we've already covered, and First Train Through. Of the 3, this is probably the one I least remember.
The looks of the guy he was with.
Find white doctor. Makuya very sick.
But the copy on the DVDs isn't that great anyway, so it would have looked even worse on VHS. Anyway, Kalamakuya's gone.
What was that?
Oh, dramatic music. Oh, Pedro's put a note on the wall. Held up with a knife.
Safe and well. Leave $5,000 at Redstone Pass by midnight if you want Doc back alive.
He's got some very nice handwriting for a ruthless bandit.
Know who the stranger was, Dusty.
Although his use of capital letters could do with some work.
Come on, Dusty. We've got to move fast.
Oh, poor little Makuya. I never understood with Kalamakuya and Little Makuya.
Tex Tucker.
They are the only tribes people around 4 for the Fall.
Come soon.
Well, I delivered the note, Pedro. I think the sheriff will be on his way to Redstone Pass by now.
There's only one trouble, Fernando. And that
Can you hear those drums?
decides to go
I'm sorry.
Redstone Pass and come up here. But don't worry. I've got a plan.
And it's as hot as my pants!
It's a lovely series, but there's really only so much I can say about 4 for the Falls.
Being seen.
It's so lovely, it's so charming, but a lot of the episodes are quite samey. You see one, you think, oh, that's lovely.
Leave the money.
Think I'll go on ahead, Tex, and do a bit of scouting around.
Oh, do we get to see your adorable walking? Yes! Oh, that adorable walking puppetry. That is so sweet.
Got the money. And he's going up to our hideout.
Well, wait till he's right below.
Oh, so Pedro and Fernando aren't messing around this time. They're both armed. Both going to take Tex down.
I'll shoot first, Pedro.
This was my idea. I shoot first.
Okay.
Just so long as it's not Greedo. So Dusty's heard something.
Tex, I've just seen Pedro and Fernando.
And a lovely over-the-shoulder shot of Tex sitting on Rocky's back looking down at Dusty.
What are you trying to say?
He's trying to tell you that he's just seen Fernando and Pedro. He always gets so frightfully excited.
There's only one approach to Pedro's hideout, and that's just the way we're gonna go.
They'll get us for sure, Tex. We'll be like sitting ducks to them up there.
Listen, Dusty.
And now Rocky as a horse may not be as well articulated a puppet as little Dusty there.
Why, if it hadn't been for...
Again, the Kenneth Connor voice just does so much to save what otherwise looks like a fairly unremarkable character, but at least he's nicer to look at than Doc's horse. God only knows where that's gone.
There they are, Fernando.
Already, Pedro?
Anyway, Tex is
Goodbye,
approaching. Oh,
Tex Tucker.
what's going to happen? Could it be? Yep. The magic feathers have caused his gun to fire and... dropped a rock on Pedro's head.
With a shot, Tex Tucker.
Ooh, but Pedro's still up for it. He can see a figure. But it's not Tex.
Can see you, Tex Tucker.
It's not Tex.
Why, you're double-crossing.
So this is a fairly simple resolution to this story.
My beautiful hat.
Oh yeah, Pedro was always worried about his hat, wasn't he? Yeah, I say resolution even though we haven't got Doc back yet, but it's fairly obvious that
Not between themselves.
Pedro and Fernando's role in this story has been
Come on, Rocky.
come to a conclusion by now.
The dock.
There we are, there's Doc.
Grace. Glory be.
Although I noticed that they left a candle on for Doc and it's within reach of the ropes, so he might even have been able to burn his way out if he'd had a mind to it.
Sure.
Dusty.
But he probably would have ended up setting himself on fire, and we don't want that. That moustache of his, that gorgeous moustache of his looks quite flammable. That's it, Dusty's getting him free.
There, Sheriff.
Guess my magic guns created a little misunderstanding between Pedro and his friend out there.
Ah. That's it, now Doc can go over and see little Makuya.
You're going to be all right now. Just as well I got here when I did.
Coming, Doc?
It won't be a moment,
Oh,
Tex.
he's got that. Makuya must have that little, oh.
Jumping rattlesnakes. I could have sworn I was in a wigwam.
Yeah, the wigwam's disappeared.
Doc. Come on. Let's get back.
So little Makuya is now cured of whatever it was that ailed him. That, as you get in TV, a lot of vague illnesses that never really need to be defined. And that was the second episode of Four Feather Falls, Kidnapped, which was, it was okay. Not the greatest, but worth giving another look for the very first Anderson production to come out of Slough, which is quite it's a statement with several connotations, actually, but yeah, strange to think that from such little humble beginnings, such wonderful things as Thunderbirds and all the rest would soon be blossoming. As a Four Feather Falls, an episode in its own right, not one of the greatest. I can see why I haven't remembered much about this episode, but don't tell the Galactic Empress that I didn't enjoy it too much, because I don't think she liked me very much. Oh, here she comes again. Better scalp her. Bye.
Hey, hang on.
Four Feather Falls?
Yeah. But
is that why you were hanging on?
No. Is there someone else on the payroll I don't know about?
Wow, that certainly wasn't Marina at the start, was it? who was that in Chris's rather special intro?
It did sound awfully familiar.
Yeah.
Not entirely
what
sure.
What do you think, Podsterons?
Anyway, yeah, Four Feather Falls. I mean, it's always a joy, isn't it, to go back that far into Anderson history? In
a sort of easy listening, kind of cutesy, occasionally cringeworthy, but lovely. And you know, that's where it all catalysed from, really, because you know that's the first thing that was their own. That was AP Films' start in their own puppetry.
Yeah, so, exactly. Yeah, nice,
lovely. Are you enjoying Four Feather Falls, Podsterons? Have you gone out and bought the DVD set? Have you watched everything a single episode? In fact, is Four Feather Falls your favourite Anderson show? If so, email us, podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. We would love to know.
That'd be interesting. Do you think there is someone out there for whom Full Feather Falls is their favourite Gerry Anderson show?
There must be somewhere,
yeah.
but
I'm not decrying it. I'm just saying, usually it's your Captain Scarlets and your Thunderbirds and what have you. But wouldn't that be lovely if we found someone,
But then they probably wouldn't listen to the podcast because they're like, well, there's not enough focus on Full Feather Falls for me. So
fair enough, that's true. But there was this week, so there we are.
Yep.
Now, just before we go, a couple of extra emails here. David Munns, for example, got in touch via podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk saying, hello both, hope you're well and keeping safe. I was watching the first Captain Scarlet episode, and there's a scene of Captain Brown removing his cigarette case from his pocket when the metal detector goes off. I was wondering if full-on outfits were created for the live-action hand scenes such as this, or just portions of the outfit that were needed. As in this particular scene, we see the brown tunic with the pocket and the sleeve with Spectrum logo on the cuff. Maybe this is a bit specific, but it was a general wondering. Thank you for keeping us all entertained. Many thanks, David. Do you know about that, Jamie? Would they have erected or made a full-scale uniform or tunic?
I don't believe so, no. It was normally just, certainly they just make sleeves for most of the hand inserts. Yeah. And if it was, into sort of behind the lapel of the tunic, then they just would have made that section. I don't think they would have made a whole costume. The only time they were really making whole costumes was for the Secret Service to match up with the puppets, because you see the human character in full. Yeah. Again, I've got the image of that man in a wig getting onto the motorcycle and riding off in that red coat. You'll know what I mean if you've seen the Secret Service, Podsterons. If you haven't, you'll think I've gone mad.
Yes, or if you haven't, watch it and then you'll know. That's the answer to it.
Yes,
great,
just a hilarious moment.
So there we are. Do get in touch with us at podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk and I'll read out your emails next week. Tweet us, hashtag us Gerry Anderson Podcast, tag him. I'm Jamie Anderson, me, Richard N. James, or head on over to our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/Podsterons, and we'll see your messages there.
Yes, and if you'd like to relive the Randomiser each Sunday, don't forget you can subscribe to the Randomiser podcast. Just search Gerry Anderson Randomiser on your podcasting app of choice. I'm sure Chris would love to hear from you there.
Yeah.
And if you enjoy what he does, you can go and buy him a coffee or a coffee. Lovely. I don't know how you're supposed to say it, but just go onto Chris's Twitter feed @Chris Dalek, and he's got a link there if you want to, pay him a little thank you.
Yeah. Lovely.
In cash.
Yeah, nice. Well, in coffee.
in a brown paper bag. That's how he likes to accept his donations.
Yeah, lovely.
Right, is that the end of this podcast?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, just this episode.
Well, obviously, yeah.
For some reason, this podcast keeps going and going and going.
Plenty more where that came from.
Yes, now there's, Richard, as you know, there is a huge amount of stuff going on in the background. We had a quick discussion before this started. Podsterons, there is a lot to look forward to, and we'll be giving you some previews in the podcast Facebook group. But also, if you want earlier previews or additional stuff, don't forget you can go and join Anderson Insiders at patreon.com/Anderson Insiders. Lots of insiders there enjoying some advanced previews of bits and pieces and some special videos made just for them. Lovely. And in fact, Richard, I believe, I'm going to pin this on you now, we're going to do a watch-along of some sort, aren't we, in due course?
Are we? Okay, fine.
For the insiders, yes. I believe so,
all
yes.
Right, let me know
where and when. To that. Right, before I get Richard into any more trouble, let's go away and we'll speak to you next week, Podsterons.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Stage 1 complete.
Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
So, what would you like to watch along, Richard James?
I don't know. Are we going to watch something that I've never seen before, or are we going to head for the obvious and watch a bit of, what, or that I was in?
You know what?
Or, don't like to mention it too much. Or are you going to surprise me?
My Parents Are Aliens?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, or surprise me with something, unexpected.
Yeah. Oh, is that a Terrorhawks?
Could be.
Yeah, I don't know what we could do. I mean, it would be nice to do a Space Precinct and do a sort of live commentary, essentially.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it? Do you think it'd be up for that? But maybe we could do two.
Yeah.
You loved Space 1999 when you were a kid, so maybe we could revisit a Space 1999 episode. How about we do Space Precinct 2 Against the Rock?
Oh, lovely. Yes, great.
And Space 1999 Death's Other Dominion.
Yeah, great. Oh, What a fantastic pairing.
Okay, done.
Great. Well, we'll get a date together and let people know. Otherwise, it'll just be you and me, won't it? That'll be silly.
Well, I'd be okay with that, actually. It'd be quite fun. But that's what we'll do. Anyway, I look forward to watching this with you in due course. And until then, enjoy your lovely shirt. I wish that listeners could see the amazing shirt you're wearing.
Might post a picture later.
Killer. And in fact, weirdly, look at the one I'm wearing.
You're wearing your NASA t-shirt.
Yeah, isn't that strange? Because we spoke about the NASA.
That's right.
Anyway, I didn't know until now. Right, okay, time to go.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Bye.
You have been listening to the Gerry Anderson Podcast. Wasn't it fun?
You have been listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.